Hi, this is Kasian, and it's time for a weekly conference call at VectorspaceAI. First, we'll start with what's happening around the world. Politico is reporting that Congress is pressuring President Biden to defend Taiwan. On the biosciences side, Pfizer's stock is soaring because its COVID antiviral appears to work really, really well. And quoting, Pfizer said its COVID-19 pill cut the risk of hospitalization or death by 89% in a trial of high-risk, non-hospitalized adults, besting Merck's highly touted oral antiviral. BTC is trading at 61K, ETH is in a range of 4,400, and the Dow is at 36.3. We are going to combine the industry side with the themes and events side because they overlap. Our first headline under industry and themes and events is Low Gravity Simulator Design Offers New Avenues for Space Research and Mission Training. TechCrunch is reporting that the studio behind early access crypto game Blankos Block Party banks monster $1.25 billion valuation from Andreessen Horowitz. Next, Alphabet is launching a company that uses AI for drug discovery. It builds on DeepMind's work on protein folding. Quoting, a new Alphabet company will use artificial intelligence methods for drug discovery, Google's parent company announced Thursday. It will build off the work done by DeepMind, another Alphabet subsidiary that has done groundbreaking work using AI to predict the structure of proteins. The new company, called Isomorphic Laboratories, will leverage that success to build tools that can help identify new pharmaceuticals. For years, experts have pointed to AI as a way to make it faster and cheaper to find new medications to treat various conditions. AI can help scan through databases of potential molecules to find some that best fit a particular biological target, for example, or to fine-tune proposed compounds. Hundreds of millions of dollars have been invested in companies building AI tools over the past 2 years. And this is being reported by The Verge. Our next headline, related to industry, themes, and events. An integrative network science and artificial intelligence drug repurposing approach for muscle atrophy in spaceflight microgravity is being reported by Frontiers in Research. And that's based on a new published paper. Next, we've got the corp side, and everything is steady as she goes there under HR, legal, and facilities. And we will also move to engineering, product, QA, and ops, and combine that with customers, partners, and collaborators. Our engineers have been hard at work working with CSSI. And we have mentioned CSSI in the past. This is a group that is taking peer-reviewed published papers in the area of the entertainment industry when it comes to script writing, so that the scripts can be reviewed for anything that might be sensitive, so to speak. So CSSI involves a lot of summarization and using different methods for summarization, extractive and abstractive, and summarization is one of the most difficult tasks you can accomplish in natural language processing and natural language understanding. It's never ever 100% correct. We test against human curators, so we have human-in-the-loop curators that interact with an interface that we're also designing and building, so that we've got that human-in-the-loop curation interface that can be used as a form of human feedback into the algorithm. And of course, once we have that curation interface fully developed, we will easily repurpose it, cookie cut it for all other industries, including financial market researchers to molecular biologists. And on the legal side as well, legal technology side, as we are still building out our deposition summarizer. We also have CERN on deck, we are doing visualizations for CERN, helping them visualize some of their data sets, using a method that we first introduced to them when we first started our collaboration with them. And they want to go down this route in terms of creating graph networks, which will turn into full-blown relationship networks. So they can study particles, the relationships between particles and their levels of energy. We're also going to be adding CERN, someone from CERN, to the advisory board. And we are still under engineering, product QA and ops, and customers, partners, and collaborators. And that's going to mean that we are going to open a dialogue with exchanges. And KuCoin will be one of those exchanges we open a dialogue with, related to offering thematic baskets of cryptos associated to any events or any topics or any themes in real time. We'll keep everyone updated on that progress point. Engineering is also putting a bow on a number of things so that we can gear up for our scientific collaborations. That's going to mean building out the scientific data engineering pipelines. And then, of course, focusing on matching protein sequences to other protein sequences and creating a relationship network among proteins of interest so that new proteins can be discovered, or new hypotheses can be generated, or even novel discoveries can be made. So we're pretty excited about that. On the corporate strategy side, which we'll move to here, corporate strategy, corporate development, business development, sales and marketing, we are giving serious consideration to our retail sales strategy at this point. As we have a particle beam-like focus on revenue, we are going to be exercising all avenues, all streams. And that's going to mean putting a greater emphasis on rolling out our retail strategy. And as we just mentioned, that would include exchanges, but it's mainly going to include working with larger organizations as distribution channels for retail products. And we will work with Morningstar initially on that. Next, we'll move on to the exchanges section. And under exchanges, we, as mentioned, we have been in talks with multiple exchanges, and we are at the point right now where we are confident that we can let the public know that we will be moving forward with a listing on KuCoin, as our legal team has reviewed the agreement and KuCoin has accepted all the changes. And that means that we have made our deposit, and we are now conducting a smart contract security audit. And this is something that KuCoin asked. They didn't ask this in the beginning. This is something they just asked us to do. It could be based on a change to the agreement that we made, or it could be based on something else. We didn't ask any questions. We want this to go ahead and go through now. So we're just going to go ahead and move forward at this point. We will keep the public updated on progress points related to other exchanges as well. And on the PR, on the IR, PR, and Marcom side, we are looking at a marketing campaign, obviously with KuCoin. We are also looking at our primary marketing campaign, our primary PR campaign, public announcement campaign based on our scientific collaborations. And that's taking time, as academia usually takes a little more time than industry. And we are happy to provide that time to them, so they can take as much time as they like, because these scientific collaborations are based on some of the most advanced research in molecular biology happening today. And we, of course, want to be there to support that and be able to contribute to any new hypothesis generation discoveries or any new published papers or awards, for that matter. And of course, that translates that translates easily to revenue. That's why we are leading with the science here. And of course, as mentioned, we've got a new scientific advisory board. We've got a couple of new scientific advisory board members. We've got about 3, and we are thinking of issuing a press release at the right time, announcing them all at the same time. One will be from CERN. Next, we've got questions from the trader base. Question 1. My question relates to a previous question you answered about why you are selling access to their data sets if they are so valuable. You mentioned that you tested the system with under 1 million and suffered losses, and that you had to raise capital again. If your system is so valuable, why not just start with a small amount and trade your way back up to 1 million? If you've ever tried to trade your way out of a hole, that's one of the worst decisions you can make. It's best just to cut your losses and move on. That is a maxim that exists in the financial markets among everyone that trades, that has experience trading. What we really want to mention is the fact that you're dealing with, you've got to be able to come back. If you suffer losses for 6 days because the market is turning, you got to be able to bounce back and re-enter the market with the same amount of capital. If you can't do that, you're going to have an even harder time if you even attempt making a bounce back, re-entering and trading your way back up. When you're dealing with networks of baskets, you're dealing with overlapping trades as well. So you need a lot of capital to play with. You need the ability to expand the amount of capital that you're using in a day. And you don't want to be doing that with leverage. You want to be doing it with as little leverage as possible, obviously. So when you look at networks of baskets and re-entering the market, dealing with multiple baskets on the short and the long side, you're also looking at dealing with stocks and cryptos. You're looking at dealing with multiple equity types in the future, ETFs and options. So you need a maximum flexibility. So the amount of capital that you need to deploy as an individual goes up there. And it's greater than 1 million. That's what we've found in order to operate a system like this on an institutional level. Individual traders can get away with making trades here and there, but won't be able to deploy large amounts of capital in the OTC markets, for example. So on the other end of the spectrum, a system like this works really well for small independent or individual traders as they play thinly traded stocks or cryptos. The crypto markets obviously work much different than the traditional markets. There are a lot of similarities. However, one thing that we have noticed is that in order for this to be effective, you have to have enough capital, absolutely, and you also have to you have to focus on as many markets as you possibly can. The opportunities for gains sometimes exist on NYSE, sometimes they exist on NASDAQ, sometimes they exist on the OTCBB, sometimes they exist just on the option side. So when we look at trading thematic baskets, we look at pooling capital together. We look at establishing an investment club like we've done. And that to us is from what we've seen, and based on the numbers as well, we've seen that to be the less risky option. Next question, question 2. You mentioned quant shops. Oh, there's one more thing about that first question. The investment club that we've established is similar to Renaissance Technologies Medallion Fund, where we are going to be using the cream of the crop data sets with the latest data sources, with the best updates and so forth. That way, we maintain an edge over what we distribute to institutions and retail. just like Renaissance Technologies does. And I'm sure many others do that as well. Question 2, and speaking of RenTech, question 2, you mentioned quant shops like Renaissance. Would they even be able to extract alpha from your data sets since they are so unique to NLP and space biosciences? They're already successful using their own strategies. What is the cost benefit for them using VXV datasets? Well, the cost benefit, it's very simple. It's gains, returns. You want additional returns. You want to diversify into other strategies that give you additional signal or returns or alpha. So there are a couple of other issues as well. When you look at a hedge fund like Renaissance Technologies, they suffer just like any other hedge fund or asset management company from decay in their algorithms. So algorithms decay over time. They need to be replaced. Data decays over time as well. Data sets that update do not decay over time. And our data sets are updating in real time, and we have billions of them. And of course, there's that other issue with Renaissance Technologies paying $7 billion in a tax settlement just as of September 3rd. So they need data sets like everyone else. And there is another part to this question. I can imagine it would be even harder for non-quant traditional institutions to extract alpha from your data sets without solid NLP expertise. What makes you think they can benefit from VXV data sets? Retail would probably find it even harder to extract alpha in this case. Okay, well, we provide a lot of documentation on the answers to these questions here. Our recommendation, of course, is to read our documentation and to consider the fact that the world has changed. Today, companies are building out artificial intelligence and machine learning systems. These systems are founded, well, let's say the foundation of these systems is the data engineering pipeline. The fuel, the lifeblood of the data engineering pipeline is the data set. So that is an inevitable future. So yesterday, companies didn't have artificial intelligence and machine learning systems. They weren't as reliant. But today they are. And that just means that the need for data sets will keep growing exponentially. And if you are not, as a company, if you are not, well, you're going to have a problem if you're not rolling out an AI and ML pipeline or a system. And if you're a company that is not leveraging, if you're rolling out an AI and ML system and you're not leveraging a language model, you're behind the times. You're already left behind. So it is true, we only work with companies that are rolling out AI and ML pipelines. But that's most companies in most industries, if not all, today. And on the retail side, it's also important to remember that we don't provide matrices, correlation matrices to an individual trader, to a retail trader. They don't get a raw data set with rows and columns, and then we send them on their way. With retail traders, we want to reduce as many steps as possible toward the execution of a basket trade on the short side or the long side with crypto or stocks, preferably both. So that you can go long on crypto and short traditionals, 60-40. Or do any other combination of trade that you'd like, structure any kind of trade that you'd like. So when you look at what retail needs a good UI, needs a good user interaction model, a good user interface, so that steps are reduced and it's easy to generate a basket. In fact, if you can remove all steps, that would be great, where there's just one big red button. To get to that point where we reduce as many steps as possible for the retail trader, we need to do things like display in real time the top 10 or top 5 global events on a screen somewhere, with the basket showing in real time the basket of components, stocks and cryptos associated to that global event, and in one click that retail trader should be able to go long or short on that basket and see a network of baskets, in fact, and go long and short or short on a network of baskets. That's the future that we see for retail trading of our data sets that will be transparently operational behind the scenes, so that we mask the complexity of needing to load a data set and then generate the clusters that result in thematic baskets of stocks or cryptos for a global event. And of course, it's also important to remember that the relationship networks and the clusters that we extract from data sets, the methodology behind that, the same methodology can be used for the molecular biologist or for the legal e-discovery analyst. It's mostly about the UI and the visualizations when you look at the retail side or the consumer side. And the molecular biologist would be a consumer or a user of our data sets. And molecular biologists don't find raw data sets very useful either. That's why they need visualizations to interpret most experimental results. And that's why we have a division of this company dedicated to visualization of results. Visualizing your results is half of data science, half of AI. Question 3, your team is checking if KuCoin is SEC compliant, but why are you already on Probit? I don't think that Probit is SEC compliant. So there are details that the public is not privy to related to this entire process and the entities involved. We've got entities that are international. So we had to operate this way when it came to getting a review on KuCoin. Question 4, for a person who wants to invest and be a stakeholder in Vectorspace, is it better to buy the token or wait until you go public and buy stock? Maybe own both. We do not provide investment advice, we do not provide financial advice, and we do not comment on the price of our token. We do have discussions with equity investors. So if you are an equity investor, feel free to make contact with us and we can provide you with details related to that side of the operation of this company. Question 5, I don't understand the functionality of the blockchain in the forming of Vectorspace's datasets. Could you please explain this, as it seems essential in the verification of their provenance? So the history, as software engineers, before crypto existed, we used revision control systems to control the revisions of our software. So a release of software would be tagged, or it would be branched and then tagged, and then that would be your product that you would provide support to and bug fix and do whatever else to. And there are various kinds of revision control systems that exist. The most notable one today is GitHub. And when you revise a piece of software, you make a change to it. And you want to track those changes. You want to track every single change so that you can debug. You can go back and figure out problems, where problems came from. And so that you can control all kinds of things related to the date stamps and time stamps of the code, related to the components and the methods and whatever designed and built the functionality for a particular customer. And you want to track all of those changes, and every time a change is made, every time code's checked in, a revision is made, and or if the code's reviewed successfully, then a revision is made and so forth. Anyway, that process has been involved with the software industry since inception, practically. When you look at the ability to take anything and make a change to it and then expect to have that change never itself change, in other words, become immutable, that's impossible with a software revision control system, because you can change the BIOS on any CPU, on any motherboard, and you can change date stamps. So you can't securely store data sets using a standard revision control system. You can using hashes of hashes, or on-chain, or blockchain. So that is the most secure way, in fact, to store a data set and track its changes. And that's why we use blockchain to engage in data provenance, data governance, data lineage, and most importantly, data security. One of the reasons we say most importantly data security is because the data set is the new attack surface, with each column being the new attack vector. But the data set, if you compromise a data set, you can compromise a billion-dollar operation, whether it's a drug that a pharmaceutical company is working on, a billion-dollar drug target, or whether it's a billion-dollar trade a hedge fund is working on. So you want your data set secure, and the best way to do that is to use blockchain. Question 6. I have read the tokenomics as described on the website. Given that I'm not an expert in the traditional stock markets, I'm just wondering what the real-world utility for VXV would be, and how the working model of VXV would translate into revenue for VXV, and at what amounts. Well, we have the perfect answers for these questions. They are located in our deck, and we are revising our deck, but our deck is accessible. If you look in our deck, you will find revenue projections, and you will find the math behind those projections that will answer precisely these questions here. So we encourage you to take a look at that. A link to that deck is you'll find on spacebiosciences.medium.com. You can also ask for a copy of the deck on our Telegram channel. Question 7. Hedera Hashgraph be a better alternative than Ethereum to operate on? It's faster and more secure, plus very compliant with the SEC, and they have also a LCX partnership. Well, our question to this question would be, how much Hashgraph do you own? Question 8. Where does the revenue come from if Vectorspace gives people access to datasets through owning VXV, rather than them paying Vectorspace directly? So the revenue comes from the updates to the datasets. Every time a dataset is updated, we charge 99 cents. We also charge 99 cents per data source, per row type, per column type, and per context control type. So an example of your row type would be a pharmaceutical company. You want pharma companies for your rows. For your columns, you might want the same pharma companies. And you might want to create a correlation matrix. You might want to find out which pharma companies have hidden relationships to other pharma companies, but in the context of a drug compound, or in the context of drug compounds. And you want that data set to update. So you also want to be able to choose a list of potential topics in addition to the column labels that you have in your data set. We have a dataset design channel that we'll be reactivating. It's VXV-dataset design, where we will be discussing this very topic here, of how datasets update, how they're designed, and it connects directly to revenue. To get a better idea on revenue, you can also visit the deck, as previously mentioned. Next, we'll move on to the strategy section. We are producing a space industry report. In the report, we will talk about the role of space biosciences within the space industry and how much of the space industry is touched by space biosciences. To get an idea of what this report might look like, we'd encourage everyone to take a look at the Morgan Stanley Space Industry Report and its table of contents. We'll in fact be using a similar table of contents, but we'll be including a lot more related to space biosciences and some of the latest that's happening in the space industry. And unrelated, finally, we will be offering 100 VXV to the individual or group that can guess the day and time will be listed on KuCoin in November. Could be any day next week. Could be the following week. Who knows? To submit your entry, find us on Telegram and contact Hannah. That concludes our weekly conference call. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to join us online. Thanks for joining.